Welcome to your deep dive. You guys really want to know what Saban's been saying about the future of college football, huh? And honestly, these articles you sent over, let's just say Saban's not holding back.
No, not at all. Thunderbolts, lawsuits, schools dropping sports. It's a lot. And these aren't just your typical off-season comments from him.
Right, like this is different.
It's like, I don't know, it's like he's seen a preview of the future, and he's trying to warn everyone before it's too late.
Okay, yeah, let's break down this whole Thunderbolt thing, because he keeps saying it. It's like his new favorite word. But it definitely sounds like he's predicting some major and probably not so good changes coming to college football.
Yeah, shakeup is putting it lightly. It all goes back to the whole name, image, and likeness deals, those NIL deals. For anyone who maybe, spent the last year under a
I
mark.
missed that memo.
Right, exactly. College athletes can now make money from their name, their image, like endorsements, appearances, all that.
Okay, right.
So Saban's not saying players shouldn't get theirs. But these articles, it's clear he's really worried about how these big money deals, these huge contracts, are going to impact the game, on the field and off.
So it's not just about the players getting paid, it's about what? The unintended consequences of all these contracts.
Yeah, and just the whole system. Like, think about it, college sports, especially football, it's all about this balance, right? You've got your big programs, your Alabamas making tons of money from TV deals, merch, all that.
And then you have the smaller programs kind of relying on those funds to, support the athletes, keep their programs going.
Exactly. And Saban's saying this whole NIL free-for-all, everyone chasing those big contracts, it could completely upend that balance.
And that's where the Thunderbolt comes in.
Exactly. He actually says in one of these articles, it's going to continue in the same direction that it's going until something happens.
Okay, ominous.
Right. So that's something. That's the Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
It could be a financial crisis. He's basically saying some programs, they just won't be able to keep up. Like, they won't be able to afford it. He even mentions, like, schools having to cut entire sports programs.
Seriously?
Oh.
Wow. So we're not just talking about, like, who wins the championship next year. We're talking about programs literally folding.
It's that serious to him. And then you have the players themselves. They're stuck in the middle of all this, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So what happens to them if this all goes south?
Well, that's another part of the Thunderbolt, right? Lawsuits.
Yeah.
He uses the phrase, no guardrails, to describe the current system. Basically saying there's not enough rules, regulations around these NIL deals.
And when you've got that much money floating around with no rules.
Someone's going to get lawyered up. He's basically saying it's going to get messy.
Okay, so we've got a potential financial meltdown. We've got a legal minefield. This is starting to feel less like a thunderbolt and more like, I don't know.
An apocalypse.
Yeah, for college football. But Saban's not just, like, pointing out the problem, right?
Yeah.
He's got to have some ideas about how to fix it, right?
You're absolutely right. He does. And this is where it gets really interesting because he starts talking about the soul of college sports.
The soul of college sports. Okay, now we're getting deep. This is Nick Saban we're talking about. The man's a legend. He's not going to go off on something like this unless he's seriously concerned. What's he actually worried about here?
See, and that's what I find so fascinating about all of this. Saban's not against players getting paid. Like,
Right.
he gets it. Times are changing, right?
Yeah.
But it's like he's wrestling with this idea, you know? What happens when something good, something that's supposed to help these athletes, what if it actually ends up hurting the game?
Hurting game how?
He's talking about the things that make college football so special in the first place. The teamwork, the dedication, the grind, the idea that you're playing for something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, for your team, your school,
Yeah.
your legacy. It does feel like some of that's getting lost.
Right. And he actually calls out Ohio State in one of these articles.
Oh, here we go. Something about how they're just throwing money at players without thinking about, like, how they fit together as a team.
Yeah, exactly. And okay, maybe there's a little rivalry there, but it tells you a lot about Saban's whole philosophy, right? It's not just about winning at all costs. It's about building something that lasts.
Yeah, which makes you wonder if every player's just chasing the biggest paycheck, how do you even build a team anymore?
Exactly. And that goes back to the whole Thunderbolt thing. If schools are just focused on handing out these massive contracts, what happens to the rest of it?
The things you were saying, like the discipline, the teamwork.
Yeah, and just the love for the game.
Yeah. You think Saban's worried that all this could, like, backfire? That these teams full of highly paid stars, they might not actually be that good?
I think he's saying it's a possibility. Like, imagine a team where everyone's looking out for themselves. They haven't learned how to play together, how to trust each other.
That's a recipe for disaster.
Right. And then those losses start piling up, the pressure's on, those big contracts start looking like a bad investment.
And then you get the lawsuits, and the whole thing just implodes.
It's not a pretty picture, is it? But here's the thing, Saban's not just complaining. He actually offers some solutions, some ideas for how to, weather this storm.
Okay, so what's the Saban plan? How do we save college football?
He keeps coming back to this idea of focusing on the fundamentals.
Fundamentals, what's that supposed to mean?
Player development, academic success. He's saying schools need to invest in the whole athlete, not just the athlete that can get you on ESPN.
So actually care about whether these kids graduate, whether they have a future after football.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really powerful message.
Because if a program like Alabama, with all its money, all its championships, if they're making that a priority, that says something.
It does.
It's like, okay, maybe there's hope for everyone else.
That's the thing, right? How can smaller programs, the ones without Alabama's budget, compete?
Yeah.
It's got to be tough for them to keep up with these mega deals.
And that's why I think Saban's hammering home this idea of, going back to basics. The player development, the academics, that's something every program can do.
Right. It's not just about throwing money at the problem. Exactly. And think about it. If you're a young athlete, a 17-year-old kid with dreams, are you really just looking for the biggest paycheck? Or are you looking for someone who's going to, I don't know, look out for you?
Someone who's actually invested in your future.
Right. And Saban's got that track record. I mean, yeah, he's put a ton of guys in the NFL, but he always talks about the ones who graduated, the ones who are doing great things off the field.
That's got to mean something to these kids, right?
It does.
Mm.
And it's not just about football,
No, I get it. It's like finding the right mentor in any field. Someone who's actually going to help you grow, not just use you to get ahead.
Exactly.
So maybe Saban's right. Maybe this thunderbolt, this shakeup, it doesn't have to be the end of college football.
Maybe it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, like a chance to hit reset, to get back to what really matters.
That's a good way to put it.
Well, there you have it, deep divers. Another deep dive in the books.
And remember, whether you're a coach, a player, or just trying to figure out this crazy thing called life, always bet on yourself. Invest in what matters. And don't be afraid to chase those dreams.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, keep those deep dive requests coming, and we'll keep digging deeper.